Thank you and welcome to the show for today. I am host Alana McLaughlin and you are watching Perspectives. This morning on the show I have three individuals here to discuss literary arts and Black Nashvillians. I have Kenneth Lowery, Antonia Whitmore, and Aneisha Wright here to discuss their artistry, their backgrounds, their careers, and ultimately the importance of literary arts in our Black Nashvillians. Guys, I want to thank y'all for just spending some time with me this morning and for coming to share your perspective.
Thank you for having me.
Thank y'all. Kenneth, tell me, baby Kenneth years, set up that kind of that childhood, that early background for me.
So basically, I was born in North Charleston, South Carolina, by way of Johns Island. And then we moved to Nashville, I say when I was about 2 or 3, after my little sister was born. And we kind of moved around different sides of the city and ended up finally going to North Nashville, which is pretty much where majority of my upbringing was, like off the Kings Lane area. And basically, it was me, my 2 older brothers, and my little sister. We were just real close-knit, and being around them kind of just molded me into what you see in front of me.
I love it. Tony, that same kind of upbringing and background.
Absolutely.
Set it up for me.
Yeah, so I am from Rockford, Illinois, about like an hour away from Chicago. Grew up in a 2-parent household and very religious. We went to church Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday type of deal. And I am the oldest granddaughter, oldest daughter, big dog brown hair. Spoiled one, for sure. And yeah, I was in Illinois up until I went to college, and then I went to Nebraska. So.
Oh, girl, you've been everywhere. I need to know like all about this journey. Aneisha, tell me that same upbringing and kind of those baby Aneisha years.
Ooh, baby Aneisha. I lived everywhere. I was born in a little town called Sardis, Mississippi, but I was raised in Dudley, North Carolina with my godparents. Much like yours, that childhood upbringing was in church. My mom, was a faithful Baptist, so I was in church every Sunday with the socks, with the
frill,
with the frill socks on them. Hated it, and the stockings and the slip. Yes, that was my mom. But yes, baby Aneisha, I love just playing little, like Whiz Kid. I used to be into like this little detective. I always thought I could solve any and everything. So my mom used to buy me these books, Talking Whiz Kids, and so I would be inquisitive with that. And then I love like little math problems, and so the analyst in me came from my mom because she used to just buy some of everything and puzzles. So I was just the talkative kid that always got everybody, including my brothers, in trouble because I told all the time on everybody. So coming up, but yeah, my background, it was definitely rooted in the church with my mom, and just had a love for finding things out, a knack for that, and like Kenneth, it developed me into who I am today.
And y'all, since we're talking about literary arts, we have got to talk about just that childhood establishment of just English, of books, of poetry. I want to talk about some early experiences, and I'm going to interject myself in here. My early experience with literary arts was going to the library as a kid. I used to take piano lessons, and I was like this like baby genius. But before my mom took me to piano lessons, she'd take me to the library, and she made it kind of a game to go find about 2 to 3 books and write her a summary, and that was my entryway into getting on the computers. And this was back when like computers were still kind of fresh. So I was like, ooh, I get to get on the computer, And so she incentivized that, but it kind of birthed a love of reading within me, and that was kind of my early experience with literary arts. And Kenneth, I want to hear about yours.
Okay, well, mine was, I was the kid, I would go outside, but I would prefer to be in my room reading like the dictionary or encyclopedias. Like I always kind of had an inquisitive mind. A lot of the things that I like to read would be like James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni, things like that, as far as like different poets and different activists that were from like the 50s and the 60s and 70s, and that really kind of geared me toward my love for poetry and my love for words and the way you can put them together and make them mean different things, and like metaphors and similes and alliterations and stuff like that. So my thing was, it came from an honest, just for the simple fact that that was my peak interest because I wasn't really good at sports. I didn't lose, but I just wasn't good at sports. So my main thing was just kind of always learning, and I'm very multifaceted. So there's always something piquing my interest.
And Tony, I want to hear that same, those same.
So kind of similar to you, at our public library, they have this program where if you read certain books, you got certain prizes. So that was my like initial motivation, and one of them was you got to go to like a water park, you got a pizza party. So like I'm reading all the books.
I know, right?
I like pizza, you know, I want to go to the water park. So that was part of it, and then also because my mother is a teacher, I was just always around books and things like that. So. Yeah.
And my mom's a teacher too. I know I keep like interjecting. I'm really passionate about this. I love to read, and I've been a bookworm all my life. We're gonna come back to like kind of how I fit into all this. Epiphany, to end off this first segment, tell me about just that early birth of the love of literary arts.
Ooh, okay. I started, I think, in second grade. I wrote a short story about a cat. I found this cat at the house, and my mom wouldn't let me keep it. It was a stray cat, so she was like, no. And I built like a little brick fortress to try to keep the cat. Nobody told me to put anything on top of it, so the cat wasn't there the next day. But I wrote a story about it, and it ended up winning. And my mom, even to this day, she still has this the news clipping that I won, like I think $5, which she won't give me, but she kept it to, you know, to memorialize it. And from there, I just always kept writing short stories, and everything just kept coming to me from then. And so and then also outside of, you know, the Dr. Seuss or the books when I was little, I just loved to read different things that rhymed, and it always got to me. So I was like, okay, I could do this, and I would just play around with it even as little, and I never told anyone. It was just like my own little project until I was comfortable enough with, you know, expressing it.
In our final Lord, I keep saying final. In our second segment, I'm not done with y'all yet. In our second segment, we're going to come back and just discuss just the early career experiences that you all had, the impact and the importance of literary arts here in town, and ways that the community can support. And I encourage our viewers to tune into the second segment of Perspectives, where I'll return with Kenneth, Antonia, and Aneisha to discuss literary arts in Nashville. The second segment of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I am host Alana McLaughlin. You are watching Perspectives. This morning on the show, I have 3 literary artists here in Nashville here to discuss their backgrounds, their educations, and ultimately literary arts in Black Nashville. I have Kenneth Lowery, Antonia Whitmore, and Aneisha Wright here to discuss their literary careers, here to discuss the impact and the importance of these literary arts in town and more. In our first segment, my guests kind of described their upbringings. They set up their early lives, their childhoods, and we're picking right back up in our second segment on just the early establishment of themselves as literary artists and ultimately the impact that they seek to leave on Tennessee. Kenneth, tell me about your first performance, your first time jumping in the water with this thing.
I'm glad you said jumping in the water, because that's literally what I did. My first performance was back in 2020, March, so basically like 2 weeks before the shutdown. And my favorite movie growing up was Love Jones. So I've always had like a unique interest of wanting to get on stage and share my poetry, because I've been writing since I was like 7 years old, kind of going from poetry to writing comic books and things like that. But I've always wanted to be on stage. So what I did was, because I didn't really know the area as far as open mics and different poetry shows that were in Nashville, so I was like, I'm just gonna make my own. So what I did was I met with Keith Mason. He's a venue owner in Madison, or Rivergate, you could say, Venue 109. Because I would go to like different venues trying to book them, but they would always be like, well, $2,400 here, $2,500 here. Y'all just open. How y'all costing so much? So, but Keith, he taught me the game as far as like putting a show together, putting wires and plugging different mics in, and he showed me how to be more independent. So I pretty much just attached myself to him. And we put our first show together March of 2020. It was a smooth showcase. I invited Lee Littles out of Arkansas, my cousin Dwight and his group, Melody and Harmony, and then just a few local artists that I came across, and it basically just catapulted. It catapulted me because I fell in love with it after that.
No, keep going.
So then, of course, we got shut down. So like literally 2 weeks. Like Keith had told me, bro, you got to keep this going. You got something here. 2 weeks later, the whole world shut down. So it kind of slowed my progress down. So 2021 came around, and we started opening back up, which I was kind of leery because, you know, it was still kind of random rapid as far as like killing people and stuff like that. And Keith said, go ahead and bring your next show out. So I decided to do an erotic show, which basically involved models, body paint, things of that nature. And that's the show that actually got me nominated for the first time as Poet of the Year for the Southern Entertainment Awards. And it's been, I went on a tour, started doing like shows all over the city. I think I did like 200 shows in a year, and just trying to promote and get the vote. I didn't win, but the nomination, the nomination was just being in the room or being considered qualified to be nominated for something like that was enough.
Wow. And I want to hear more about this show, hearing like an erotic live like poetry show. That sounds like terrifying, but it also sounds real interesting because I've never seen anything like that in real life. And often when you hear like erotic and bodies and pain, you think it's like, I'm like, I can stay away from that. But that's really interesting, and it's a facet of art that I want to know more about. Now, Tony, PuBlack Library Publishing. Tell me about it.
Okay, so first things first, I do not like English, and I struggle. I struggle with spelling. I struggle with spelling so bad. So I've always been good at writing, very good, but like at creating stories is what I should say. And then one random night, I literally had a dream that I was an author. Like, it was never like one of my dreams to be an author. But I had a dream, I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting, because you never really like remember your dreams like the next morning. So I'm like, this is something right here. So let me just start writing, I guess. So I started writing, and then in 2019, it's when I came out with my first book. And although like I didn't know the publishing process at all, and it was a struggle, it was a challenge, I finally published my first book, and it was a bilingual children's book. And after that, it was up. So now
That's like putting it lightly. And we're gonna come back just like with Kenneth and talking about just like establishing a publishing company like that, putting out a book, and now you did this like with no professional backing.
None.
Oh my goodness. So I need to know all of that. Aneisha, I want you to tell me about the establishment of Epifany's Emagination.
Okay, so I'll shout out to the Blue Flame, because I started in North Carolina, and I was a horrible open mic artist. I was scared. My nerves would always get the best of me. The host would always do this icebreaker where he would start out a one-line poem where everybody had to say something. And so that started me with my fear of trying to overcome speaking, and because everybody was involved. And then from there, I just, in 2011, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and then shout out to Martin Ed's Cafe. That was another open mic that embraced me with other open arms, and I was able to meet other fluent artists that was out here doing things, and I was like, yo, I could do that. But one of my favorite was when I was watch Def Poetry Jam with Most Def as a host. And that was where I felt like performance poetry was my niche in life, and I wanted to perfect that. And so, and I would use the platform in Memphis at Martin Ed's to perfect me trying to do my performance. And shout out to Cameron Osborne of Height Lounge, because he was the venue owner that gave me my first performance when I did the Vagina Monologues. And I had a piece called Which Would You Choose, which was a very risky, also an erotic piece. So he gave me my first start with that, and from there I just started getting bookings from everywhere, because that has been, even to this day, like my #1 requested piece that people still remember and want me to perform, and I'm like, I'm trying to retire that. But that catapulted my stardom into doing performance poetry.
And you've taken it so far as you've had like poetry retreats. You were just on Perspectives a few months ago, and you were able to kind of give details about the retreat, which was in May. And so we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about the upcoming Underground Poetry Battle. And now tell me the date on that again.
November 24th.
So that's right around the corner. And Tony, like I just said, I need to know about this book. And are you bilingual?
I'm not bilingual.
That's even cooler because you consider that. No, seriously, we're all laughing. Like I'm laughing too, but you considering just different languages and different cultures. That's why I love y'all, and our viewers are gonna love y'all. And then our final segment, we're gonna come back to discuss just some of the events that these guests have planned, just some of the ways that we can support them, and ultimately literary arts in Black Nashville. Box 17 News. The final segment of the show for today. Today on Perspectives, I've discussed literary arts in Black Nashville. I've had Kenneth Lowery, Antonia Whitmore, and Aneisha Wright here to discuss their backgrounds, their careers, their educations, and ultimately their careers as literary artists here in Nashville. In our first two segments, our guests describe just the journeys that they've had that have shaped their careers, that have shaped the impact that they seek to leave on Tennessee communities. And we're going to spend this final segment discussing just some of the ways that we can support them, some of the events that they have upcoming, and ultimately the importance of literary arts in Black Nashville. Kenneth, I want you to tell me about this underground hip poetry, not hip hop.
Get it right.
No, poetry battle. I want you to tell me about. I know I've just hosted a hip hop battle,
Okay.
but I want you to tell me about it and tell me some of the offerings, what this looks like, and just set it up for me.
Okay, so I'll give you the backstory on how it kind of came about. So Epifany, also known as Aneisha Wright, she's my manager and best friend. So we had went to a rap battle in Memphis. It was my first time going to an actual rap battle. So we went to a rap battle in Memphis, and I was like, Piff, like, we need to bring poetry to something like this. And as soon as I put the batter in her back, that's all she needed, and she took off with it. So basically the way it's set up is it's just like a rap battle. So it's 3 rounds, one poet versus another poet face to face, for a cash prize of $150, as well as they get the chance to take one of these home. As well, so we also have like food offerings. So we have like food for the regular people, food for vegans, so everybody's included. We also have VIP seating, as well as the people that can come on stage with the battlers while they're doing their battles. And basically it's just going to be a good time at the basement over there on 8th Avenue South.
So, okay, I need you to set this up for me as someone who has never seen a poetry battle in real life. What does that look like? Are people taking turns? Are people going head to head?
Well, see, there's a reason why you never seen it, because this is the first one. So with that being said, so basically we'll probably have flip a coin, so we can decide who goes first.
Okay.
So of course, when we're gonna have one person go, they'll get a time slotted for 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay.
And then once they're done, the next person will go.
Okay.
And then once they get done, once the 2 opponents go, each round will be judged by the audience.
Okay.
And basically, best 2 out of 3 wins the money and the trophy.
Now tell me, okay, I just have so many questions. This is so cool. If I were an audience member, right, and I'm listening to this, what do I base my score off of? Would this be creativity, flow? Tell me just some of those markers.
So basically, it's all those intricacies. Because basically, the things that the thing about a spoken word poetry battle is because we all go by the slogan, all spoken word is poetry.
Okay.
But all poetry isn't spoken word. So with that being said, you're going to be listening for cadences. You're going to be listening for creativity, metaphors, punchlines, bars, anything that can, like, it's not going to be like trauma dumping or anybody trying to freestyle or just throw random things. Like, people actually put their time and energy and sat down and wrote this stuff out. So you're going to be listening for, like I said, cadences, creativity, flows, metaphors, similes, punchlines, bars, just all kind of like the whole spectrum, because it's not like a regular poetry show.
Right.
Like most poetry shows or most open mics are more about pouring out, letting things go, releasing things that you've been dealing with. No, this is an actual battle. So this is going to be words, my pen versus your pen, and we're going to see who's going to come out on top, because I'm going to be competing in it as well.
Epiphany, I need you to add on to this. I am like amazed. I want a battle. For real. And this is the way that the community should feel about literary arts.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, I know we like to think it's not cool to read, it's not cool to write, but it's cool.
No, it's way more to it.
This is cool.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying
tell me
to do.
about your involvement in this event.
Okay, so what we wanted, like before, I told you I do many facets with poetry, and this is just another way to expound upon that. So we wanted to show that poetry isn't just open mics. I started playertries with plays. So we got plays, we got retreats. So the battle is often a way to show that for artists that, like, let's say, battle poetry or not afraid to put their pen against the next person, because you do have slams, but we don't want anyone to get this confused with a slam. That's not what this is. So just like if you ever watch battle rap, it is pretty much in your face and against the opponent.
Right.
The only difference is we're not trying to be thug with it. You know, we are battling the other person, so feel free to go after the other person. You know, you're looking at what that person has done, or maybe preferencing something they have written. As a, you know, just being more competitive. And our focus is to make sure that everyone knows we all keeping it poetry. It's still positive. We still love each other. It's not actual beef with anyone. But I'm going to show you that, hey, my pen is a little bit better than yours. And, you know, and that's a way for bragging rights. So basically it's bragging rights, something fun and different for the community and for them to get involved in. We created sponsorships for anybody that want to, because this is, again, first of its kind in Nashville. So we do have sponsorship packages available. We do also have, we're with the basement, the OG basement is where it's going to be held at. So we have Ticket Web where people can go purchase their tickets for the VIP or general admission. So we hope to have the community out in support of that, being that it is the first. People may have seen us because me and SUG have been out slinging flyers everywhere. So yes, if you see these flyers, we're probably the ones who did it. But yes, November 24th, the first Nashville Underground Poetry.
And y'all, throughout all this work, I have to ask, the mission, what is the impact that we seek to leave on Tennessee? And Kenneth, I want to hear that from you first. Tell me the impact that you seek to leave, both for your daughter, for the city, for yourself, for every literary artist that comes after you. Tell me.
So basically, everybody knows my love for the city. Like, that's pretty much the inspiration behind my brand, Southside of 65. So basically, the impact that I want to leave is that there's more to poetry than what y'all think about it. Because my daughter, being one of my biggest inspirations, she had won her, she got second place in her talent show doing poetry. So that, seeing how I can inspire her and doing the different things like I've done as far as going to different, because I have gone to other schools and done different workshops with the students and things like that, and seeing how they think it's just Romeo and Juliet. Right? So, or they think
Hamlet.
they think it's just something that they can't get into, but when they realize that poetry is so much more than just what they teach in schools, and that there's actual artists, and then on top of that we can get Grammys for it now as far as our poetry. Like, it's so many different lanes and avenues that you can take poetry in. So with that being said, you don't have to be the person that's the rapper that's got to hurt somebody to get your stuff sold. Like, you can just tell your story. And so many of these kids have, although they have the internet, that's like a misguided way of telling their story versus being able to just sit down and put it on paper is like a form of therapy. So with that being said, just seeing how it's affected my daughter, seeing how it's affected the kids that I've worked with in the community already, I just know that something like this, showing that there's another side of poetry, that we can have fun with it and not have to hurt each other, I feel like it's gonna leave a hell of an impact.
And it has, and it will. Ladies, I want you again to tell me that short mission and to plug yourselves and plug ways that our viewers can connect with you all. Tony, I want to hear from you.
Okay, so basically, with Public Library. Okay, so Public Library is a publishing company, Black-owned publishing company, and our mission is to basically educate, entertain, and empower through literature. We help authors of color specifically, to write their books, because only 5% of published authors are African American. This is one of our latest books. It is called Melanin Laughs, and we have a few more books coming up in like the next 2 to 3 months, and our I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, because I know that we have covered a lot of ground, and all the ground that we did not cover will be available on my website, AlanaMcLaughlin.com. Epiphany, I know I've just like ran over you, but Epiphany's social media is Epifany19, Epiphany's Emagination. And for any further information, please visit my website. And to my viewers, I wish you a good morning.